Man, what a read. Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I will be reviewing book 2 of the Stromlight archive, The Words of Radiance. I absolutely love this book. This isn't normally the kind of book that I would say that about. This was, I just love it, and I do have issues with it, which I'll get to, but we'll start off strong. I gave this book 5 stars. There are character decisions in this book that drove me crazy, but it did get 5 stars because I just love it. I absolutely love everything. Well, not everything, but I just loved this book so much that it got that 5-star rating for me. And that's pretty impressive. That is my third 5-star of the year. So far 2023 has been a really, really good reading year for me. I think last year I had 1, and the year before that I only had 2 maybe. I'd have to go double check, but yeah, so this is only the 16th 5-star book I've given out since I started keeping track of that in 2019. So yeah, to have 3 already in 2023 is just fantastic, and I just loved this book. So I'm going to do my best to keep this as spoiler-free for book number 2. I feel like, you're watching a review or somebody talk about the second book in a series. You're not going to care if I spoil some things from The Way of Kings, which is the first book in the series. So anything in The Way of Kings is free game. I'll do my best to keep most of this, very spoiler-free, very light references to things as best as I can. So normally when I do my reviews, I always start with the positives, but I have so many positives that I'm probably just going to talk for way too long about them. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the negatives this time around, and I really only have 2 things that kind of bothered me throughout this. And one, it's not even really fair to say that it bothered me because I understood the action. A lot of times when I have a problem with a book and I don't like the decisions characters make, it's because it doesn't fit into the character we've been told that they are, or that it doesn't fit with their motives or anything like that. And I'm saying that all is a preference to some decisions that characters, specifically Kaladin in this book, drove me crazy. There were times where I just wanted to shake, slap some sense into him, something. I just could not believe some of the decisions Kaladin was making. And that, drove me crazy. And I know it might be kind of unfair to even say that that's a negative because of the growth we see from Kaladin throughout this book, but that doesn't make it any less frustrating than while it's happening. It seems like every step along the way, there's a very clear right and wrong thing that he could be doing, and he does the wrong thing pretty much every single time. Every single time he's at that fork in the road, he goes the way he should not go until, we see later on in the book, I think he makes better decisions. I guess that could be up to everyone's interpretation. But yeah, throughout this book, time and time again, I was so frustrated. I even have some messages I sent to one of my friends who has read this series where I just told her I just cannot understand why he's making such bad decisions. Why is he acting so stupid? It just seemed so clearly wrong, and somehow it still ended up working, which is just crazy because this is normally the kind of thing that kills a book for me. When characters do these kinds of things, and I'm just so frustrated where they're making decisions that just no normal person would make. And I guess that's maybe why it did work, because for the most part, I could understand why Kaladin was feeling the way he was feeling and kind of making the decisions he was making. He's obviously been through so much that I get it, but that made it very, very frustrating. So I'm going to have to count that in my negatives, even though it ends up working and kind of being a positive because we get to see such growth from him as a character. The only other real negative I have, it's a possibility. I'm going to call this as like a hypothetical negative because it seemed to be very lightly hinted at that there could be some kind of love triangle thing going on. And nothing will upset me more than if these 3 characters are in some weird kind of love triangle. And I can kind of see some of the shadowing happening between these 3 new characters where they happened with past characters. And I'm saying this all to be very vague in case somebody's watching this and doesn't want anything spoiled. But there are definitely hints dropped that there's going to be some kind of weird love triangle going on that is mirroring the same kind of love triangle that happened in the past. And man, that would drive me crazy. Love triangles, especially when they're based around lack of communication, just are a killer trope for me. Absolutely destroy stories, are absolutely just poorly executed 99% of the time. And it's just not something I enjoy, especially in what I will call a little bit more of a action, not even action focused story, because it is, but I just feel like we could spend our time on a lot better and cooler stuff, especially in this world and universe. than some weird love triangle that doesn't need to exist. I really hope that is not the case, but I'm going to put it here as a possible negative because, man, that will just, it'll make me so upset for a book or in a series that I have loved so far and have really strong feelings for, that if that's something that could just kind of sink the ship for me. So I'm really holding out hope that that doesn't materialize past what we kind of saw little glimpses of in this book, but that's definitely going to be what I'm crossing my fingers for. Okay, now let's get off the negative and transition to what I absolutely loved about this book. And the first thing I'm going to start off with is just saying Shalon is the GOAT. She is the best. I absolutely love her as a character. She is definitely my favorite character. I think coming into this book, I would have probably said it was Kaladin or Dalinar were my favorite. I'm with Shalon very close. After reading this book, Shalon is absolutely my favorite character, hands down. It's not even close. She is she's just awesome. And it seemed, and maybe part of that was every step of the way where it felt like Kaladin made bad decisions, which Shalon did make one decision that kind of drove me a little bit crazy, but it got canceled out so quickly and ended up not bothering me that much. But it seemed like every step of the way he made the wrong decision at the fork in the road, Shalon was making a better one. Not always perfect, not always the best, but she was just, I don't know, she was just out there doing things, making moves, getting what she needed to get done. Just everything about her was fantastic. She was playing a game, but still being herself. Just everything she did, I just loved. She's obviously such an important character to the story. And, you know, I think people say this is kind of her story, whereas the first book is definitely more of Kaladin's story. And I can see that. But yeah, she was just, she's just great. Everything about her. And I really feel like we're going to get to explore a lot of the world through her too, just with kind of her scholarly, you know, aspects to her character. I think we're going to learn a lot through her. So she was just great throughout this entire story. Just time after time, she was doing things, surprising me, and just being an awesome character. And you know, she's just, I hope we get more of the same. And yeah, I just absolutely love Shalon. She is definitely the number one positive. Just the best part of this book for me is definitely Shalon. So I'm starting off with my number one thing. And she was just great. And yeah, just, I mean, perfect. You see her grow, you get to her backstory, and her backstory itself is just, I mean, I knew something was up with her backstory. I didn't know exactly what. I kind of guessed towards it, maybe halfway through when you start to get a little bit more of that. But yeah, just seeing everything that happened and how intertwined her family is with everything that's going on, and just, I don't know. She's just the most fascinating aspect of this story. I mean, Kaladin and Dalinar aren't that far behind. I mean, they're far behind, I think, at this point. She might have lapped them a little bit. They're still great characters, but Shalon, man, she's really carrying this series for me right now. She's just awesome. My next positive is going to be us getting to explore the world a little bit more. We obviously get a different point of view from the Parshendi in this book, and I thought that was awesome. It was a great way to expand upon the world we're already living in and get that opposite point of view. And I think, you know, a lot of questions actually end up getting placed in with what we see from the Parshendi and like, how is this all going to work into the world? But yeah, I think it was a really useful tool to show that they're not just like mindless creatures doing whatever, that there is definitely some more structure to them and everything. And we got some of that in The Way of Kings, especially at the very end with all of that. But yeah, just getting that, you know, the scope widening, and we get that a couple times, or we get some new character point of views and all of that. And I just think that was a super positive because, you know, I really think this is that epic on epic scales. So getting outside of our lens of like the Kaladin, Shalon, Dalinar kind of perspectives and flipping that, huge positive for me, and it worked really well. And I'm hoping we get some more of that in book 3, Oathbringer, I think is book 3. And yeah, I'm hoping we get even more of that, more point of views, more characters, more exploration of the world, and seeing things that are going on in other places, which we did get in the Words of Radiance as well. I couldn't not talk about how some of the like heroic action moments that happen in this story, that is something I'm a huge sucker for. I get like goosebumps when like, you know, like when something looks like it's the most dire situation and then someone steps in and is like the hero everybody needs. And it normally involves like a big power up or somebody who is powerful stepping in and like doing the thing. I have a weakness for that. That is one of my favorite things to see. I love it. And that happens a couple times in this book. There are definitely moments where I got goosebumps. The first assassination attempt, the duels that happen, the duels with multiple people, if that, I'm trying to be vague, and then obviously the last kind of conflict that we get, man, multiple times when people are doing things, just goosebumps. I absolutely loved it. And they're so well done. I hear a lot of people talk about John Gwynne as being a great, action writer, and I think he really is. But Sanderson, I don't think is that far behind. His writing is different. His fight scenes are definitely differently done than like a John Gwynne, who I really like some of his books as well. But I don't know, they just flowed and felt so earned a lot of times in this book. And so those big action moments were just, oh man, they were great. And there are moments that I won't forget. There are going to be ones that stick with me, specifically the very last one, and specifically the one with multiple combatants, if that makes sense. Trying to be vague for spoiler reasons. But those two are just, man, especially if I had to pick between those two, it's actually the one with the in the arena with multiple people. That is one that just like sticks with me. That is those kind of moments that I just absolutely love, and I think are, like the pinnacle of heroic action kind of moment. And the last positive I'm going to talk about, and this might be more subjective for me because this is something I wanted out of this journey, is all of the Cosmere connections. There are some pretty heavy tie-ins to some other books that I've read. I'm thinking primarily Warbreaker, I think is the one I'm really thinking of, where at the very, very end of this book, we kind of get a huge reference to that, if I'm correct. I could totally be wrong and just not understanding that. But everything with Hoyd is just great. And I think reading everything in order from my master list that I have from the Cosmere subreddit, I think, getting all these tie-ins and seeing the bigger picture is just a huge positive. And it's what I wanted. I can see why people want to compare it to like the MCU and stuff. While I don't think it's exactly like that, everything being kind of touching and working together in some way, almost how people talk about the multiverse with Stephen King and the Dark Tower and all of that, I think is just something I'm really appreciating, and getting to see it all kind of fall into place. It makes me question not just the story that's going on individually in and the Stromlight archives. It's making me question things that are happening in like the larger Cosmere universe, and like how everything is going to be intertwined, because I obviously still have a lot more to read at this point. And so yeah, I'm really curious on like how much crossover are we going to get. I know Stormlight's supposed to be like 10 books long, so I can only imagine the amount of content that might end up being woven in by the point we get to book 10 of the Stormlight archives. I'm hoping maybe we kind of get like a one giant converging moment. And to me, as somebody who's going to make sure I read all of the Cosmere at this point, that's just an awesome thing to like look forward to, come to expect, which maybe is a double-edged sword. Expectations always can let you down. But yeah, having the connections and catching not everything. I'm definitely not catching everything, but being able to catch a lot of the things that are going on is just a huge positive. And I think that isn't just relegated to Stormlight. It's definitely a total Cosmere kind of thing. That's just a huge positive for me. So yeah, just my last overall thoughts. I really love this book, and this is, like I said, this is not the kind of book I normally give 5 stars to. Normally, most of my 5 stars are books where I basically have no negative things to say about it, maybe one negative thing. And this is a book where I was really frustrated with specifically Kaladin and Shalon for one very brief moment of time. But yeah, when I finished the book, I was just like, I loved this book. And for me, when I love a book, and that's how I feel about it, it is 5 stars. So it does get that 5-star rating from me. I am super excited to continue on with this series. According to my list, I think the next book I read in the series are 2 short stories in the Cosmere, which I already read one, and then it is the first Mistborn Era 2 book. I don't know exactly when I get to Oathbringer, but hopefully soon. It's huge motivation to read through some of the other stuff that I have to get to. So, I'm hoping that Era 2 doesn't disappoint me too much. I've heard mixed things about it. I think I'm going to like it because some of the negatives that I've heard about it are things that I don't think will bother me, but I'm so excited to just let this book marinate with me and just enjoy and think back on the things that I loved about it so much before I get to book 3. But, if you want to have any further discussion, let me know down in the comments. We can go full spoiler down there. Just, type out spoiler beforehand, and I'd be more than happy to, get into the nitty-gritty of this book because I just absolutely loved it so much. But thanks again for watching, and I hope you have a good one.